The clock on the kitchen wall read 3:17 a.m. when Emma Clark's phone lit up with the message that would change everything. "We'd love to have you in Dubai for our upcoming campaign." Her hands trembled as she read it again, heart racing between excitement and disbelief. How does someone go from coffee-stained portfolios in London to a penthouse photo shoot in the Emirates? Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Don't trust strangers online." But the website looked real, sleek, professional, dripping luxury. She smiled at her reflection in the dark window, whispering, "This is it." She had no idea those words would be the last innocent ones she'd ever say. How does a dream so bright hide shadows this deep? And why does fate whisper yes when it should be screaming no? The terminal buzzed with departures, perfume, and promises. Emma clutched her passport like a lifeline, eyes darting between screens. Heathrow's cold light made everything look too real. Her mother's final message blinked on her phone. "Text me when you land," she typed back. "Love you. I'll be fine." The words felt thinner than air. A flight attendant called boarding for Dubai. Around her, strangers hurried toward destinations they'd return from. She smiled, pushing away the whisper that something was off. No one ever knows they're walking into their own headline. 38,000 feet above the clouds. The world below looked peaceful. A cruel contrast. Emma scrolled through Lucas' messages again, reading promises of luxury, exclusivity, safety. Each word now sounded rehearsed. She closed her eyes, picturing the desert sun and the skyline she'd soon call her playground. But when the plane dipped through a layer of cloud, she felt her stomach twist. Somewhere beneath those clouds waited a man she barely knew. Somewhere below, a door would open. And once she stepped through, it might never open the same way again. Dubai glittered like a mirage. Too perfect, too polished to be real. The airport's marble floors reflected endless light. Luca stood waiting beyond customs, camera bag over his shoulder, smile too confident. He greeted her with warmth and a small white rose. "Welcome to paradise," he said. His accent stretched each syllable like velvet. Emma laughed, nervous but charmed. She didn't notice his eyes, studying, calculating, memorizing. She told herself it was just professional interest. She was wrong. That night, the city pulsed outside the hotel window. Endless cars, distant music, gold light spilling from skyscrapers. Emma unpacked her clothes on the bed, each item folded like a dream, carefully preserved. A message buzzed from Luca. "Tomorrow, sunrise shoot. Dress simple." She smiled, watching her reflection in the glass beside the skyline. Her phone camera flicked open. She snapped a selfie. The one image the world would later share, searching for clues in her eyes. The desert sun hit her face like a curtain of fire. Dubai shimmered. Glass towers rising out of heat waves. Luxury cars gliding like sharks. Emma followed Luca through a maze of polished marble and tinted windows, her suitcase rolling behind her. He talked about fashion, lighting, clients, but she barely heard him. Every word felt rehearsed. Perfect. Too perfect. They drove past the glittering coastline to a sleek building near the marina. "We'll start tomorrow," he said, handing her a key card to her private suite. The view was breathtaking. The silence wasn't. Why did the city hum so loud outside, while her gut whispered, "Run"? The penthouse looked like a dream carved in glass. Panoramic views, marble floors, champagne on ice. Lucas' assistant, a quiet man named Amir, gave her a contract to sign. "Just standard," Lucas said, flashing his reassuring grin. Emma hesitated. The pages were full of fine print she didn't understand. "Trust me," he added. "You're safe here." She signed. He clapped softly. "You're special, Emma. Not many get this chance." The pen trembled slightly in her hand. Outside, the call to prayer echoed faintly. a haunting lullaby of a city that never truly sleeps. The next morning, Luca's voice echoed through the suite. "Wake up, sunlight waits for no one." Emma blinked into the pale glow seeping through the curtains. He'd already set up the studio. White backdrop, silver lights, mirror positioned just so. She wore a flowing gold dress he'd chosen. The first flash blinded her. "Perfect," he murmured. Another flash. His words began to sound mechanical, hypnotic. She posed, smiled, turned. But each click of the camera felt heavier, as if capturing not just her face, but her freedom. By nightfall, the tone shifted. The champagne was replaced by commands. "Try again," Luca said sharply when she hesitated. "You're tense. Relax." His hand brushed her shoulder. She flinched. He smiled as though nothing had happened. "Confidence, Emma. It's what makes beauty dangerous." Her pulse quickened. She wanted to leave, to call her mother, but he reminded her of the contract, the promise, the money. "You owe me 1 week," he said softly. Outside the window, the city lights blurred into 1,000 watching eyes. The next morning, the studio door was locked from outside. Her messages went unanswered. No new schedule, no breakfast tray, only silence and the low hum of the city beyond the glass. She pressed her palm against the door, then against the window, watching boats cut through the marina below. Her reflection stared back. A girl who looked like Emma Clark, but didn't feel like her anymore. Somewhere below, the call to prayer began again, echoing through the skyscrapers like a warning whispered too late. The third day began before sunrise. Emma woke to the sound of a shutter clicking, not her alarm, but Luca's camera. He stood at the foot of her bed, capturing her half-asleep confusion. "Candid," he said, smiling. "Real emotion." Her voice caught in her throat, part fear, part disbelief. "Ask next time," she whispered. He ignored her. Perfection doesn't wait. The air smelled like perfume and tension. She wrapped the bedsheet tighter, realizing the door was still locked. The luxury had become a set, and she was no longer the star, just the subject. The flash went off again, and for a moment she thought she saw herself disappear inside it. Hours later, the shoot moved to the rooftop terrace. The city stretched endlessly below, sunlight gleaming off towers like knives. Luca's voice was calm, directing her like a puppet. "Smile wider. Step closer to the edge." She obeyed, too tired to argue. Her smile trembled as the wind whipped her hair. "Perfect," he murmured, lowering his camera. Again, the word again felt like a command she couldn't refuse. When she finally turned away, her eyes filled with tears, but she made sure he didn't see. Models don't cry in paradise. That evening, Emma tried to call her mother. No answer. Then she realized there was no signal, only Wi-Fi she didn't control. Luca appeared in the doorway, glass of wine in hand. "You need to relax," he said. "We have another shoot tonight. More artistic." His tone made the words sound dangerous. She shook her head. "I don't want to," he smiled thinly. "Contracts, Emma. You're here to work." Her throat tightened. Somewhere deep inside, the reality broke through. This wasn't a career move. It was captivity wrapped in glamour. The studio lights burned bright that night. He wanted something raw, he said. "The real you." She stood under the glare, shaking, refusing to pose. "No," she said softly. He approached, whispering, "You'll regret that." The camera clicked anyway, not to capture beauty, but to capture control. Her reflection in the mirror behind him was ghost-like, almost gone. "Smile," he demanded. She didn't. The flash swallowed her whole. When it was over, she sat on the cold floor, makeup smeared, dress torn slightly at the strap. Her breaths came shallow, trembling. Outside, the city glowed with 1,000 lights, each one oblivious. Luca downloaded the photos, humming softly. "We're done for today," he said without looking at her. She nodded slowly, eyes empty. Later that night, she recorded a voice message on her phone. Never sent, whispering, "Mom, something's wrong." It was found in drafts weeks later. The timestamp, 2:43 a.m. For 3 days, Emma's phone stayed silent. Her mother, Sarah Clark, tried calling every hour. London time, Dubai time, every time. No reply. The last message on the chat read, "Morning shoot. Wish me luck." Then nothing. At first, friends said she's probably busy. By the 5th day, Sarah's gut said otherwise. She called the agency's number listed on the website, disconnected. The world kept scrolling while one mother's world stopped. "My daughter doesn't go missing," she told the police. "She calls every night." The missing person report reached Dubai within a week. Detective Farah Al-Manzouri took the file. She'd seen too many foreign names written over panic. The first clue, the address of a penthouse leased to Luca Moreno. When her team arrived, it was empty. No cameras, no photos, no signs of a shoot, just faint tape marks on the floor where light stands once stood. Everything here was meant to look perfect. Farah said quietly, "Perfection hides evidence." Well, in London, journalist James Patel started tracing the agency's digital footprint. Every link led to another fake. The website domain was registered under a string of shell names, all tied to Luca Moreno's production company. "He's been doing this for years," James muttered, his monitor glowing blue across his tired face. He sent an email to Detective Farah. "You're not just looking for one woman." The first international connection had just been made. Back in Dubai, Farah met Luca for questioning at a marina cafe. He smiled easily, tan skin glowing in the sunset. "She left," he said. "We finished work. She wanted to see the city. No witnesses, no proof otherwise." Farah watched him stir his espresso with calm precision. "You record every shoot?" she asked. "Of course," he replied. "But the files, they were corrupted." She nodded, noting the twitch in his jaw. "Sometimes, silence tells the loudest story." Weeks later, a new lead surfaced, CCTV footage from a nearby hotel. The screen showed Emma entering the lobby at 11:46 p.m., smiling, holding her phone. She never appeared leaving. The footage cut out minutes later. Farah replayed it again and again, every frame heavy with unspoken truth. Sarah watched it too, her hand over her mouth, whispering her daughter's name like a prayer. Across the world, headlines began to appear. British model missing in Dubai? The story had finally escaped its silence. Detective Farah Al-Manzouri's office wall was covered in photographs. Dates, flights. Emma Clark's name was no longer alone. There were others. Each thread led back to the same man, the same agency, the same pattern. "It's not one case," Farah said into her recorder. "It's a system. Outside, the city shimmered in daylight, indifferent." She looked down at Emma's smiling picture, whispering, "We'll bring you home." For the first time, she meant it not as comfort, but as a promise. In London, James Patel sifted through encrypted files a whistleblower sent anonymously. Within them, contracts, passport scans, fake model releases. The pattern was undeniable. Dozens of women lured across Europe by the same alias, El Moreno. James pressed record on his mic. "This isn't a modeling scam," he said, voice shaking. "It's organized exploitation hidden behind luxury." He sent the data to Dubai. 2 continents, 1 mission. Finding truth before it vanished again. Farah and James met for the first time in the embassy conference room. 2 strangers bound by the same absence. "He's using luxury brands as fronts," James said, spreading printed documents across the table. Farah nodded slowly. "We can't undo what happened," she said. "But we can stop it from happening again." The determination between them was electric. The kind that only forms when justice stops being a job and becomes personal. The breakthrough came from an airport manifest. Luca Moreno had booked one-way flights for multiple assistants. The names matched the missing women list. Within days, warrants were issued. Farah watched as her team raided his office downtown, seizing hard drives and equipment. On one monitor, dozens of portraits appeared. Women, dates, places. The illusion of glamour shattered into evidence. She exhaled, whispering, "We see you now." News broke within hours. International photographer arrested in Dubai scandal. Sarah Clark watched it unfold from her kitchen table, tears mixing with relief. The investigation didn't bring Emma back, but it gave her a voice again, and gave others a chance to be found before disappearing. As reporters swarmed outside, Sarah whispered, "You changed the world. Love. Somewhere in Dubai." Farah closed her case file gently. Justice hadn't ended the story, but it had finally begun to speak. Detective Farah Al-Manzouri sat before a wall of screens in the cyber forensics unit. Weeks of decoding had led to one encrypted folder labeled E. Clark Project. Inside were travel itineraries, contracts, and digital traces proving Luca Moreno's global network. It wasn't only Dubai, Milan, Madrid, Singapore. Each name told the same story of promises turned to silence. Farah pressed record. "This is not an accident. This is an operation." The truth, once buried under glamour, was finally breathing. Across the ocean, journalist James Patel prepared his exposé. Every sentence carried the weight of a mother's unanswered call. This was never just about one missing person. His voice-over said, the newsroom hum fading beneath his words. It's about the illusion of safety when ambition meets deception. The documentary aired worldwide, sparking outrage, new laws, and emergency verification systems for modeling agencies. Justice was moving, slowly, but loudly. When the case files became public, Sarah Clark flew to Dubai to thank the investigators. Standing in the station lobby, she met Farah for the first time. Two women linked by loss and resilience. "You gave her back her truth," Sarah whispered. Farah replied softly, "And you gave her courage." Cameras flashed outside, but for a moment, it was just silence between mothers, daughters, and promises kept. Court proceedings began quietly. No headlines yet, just documents and testimonies stacking higher each day. Former assistants, victims, and witnesses stepped forward. Patterns aligned, timelines merged, and a judge ordered a full international probe. In her testimony, Farah stated, "Truth is fragile, but once spoken, it multiplies." The sentence resonated beyond the courtroom, echoing through every newsroom that had once called Emma a mystery. Months later, the verdict arrived. Guilty on multiple counts of fraud, coercion, and identity abuse. Outside the courthouse, flashbulbs erupted, but Sarah stayed quiet. She unfolded a printed photo, Emma laughing on the balcony before her flight, and smiled through tears. "You're free now," she said softly. Across the world, new safety programs carried Emma Clark's name. What began as a tragedy had become a movement, proof that even in silence, truth waits for someone brave enough to listen. Months after the trial, the world had already moved on to new headlines. But the echo of Emma Clark's name lingered in conversations about online safety and global modeling standards. Universities studied the case. Governments cited it in policy reforms. Detective Farah Al-Manzouri watched a televised interview and thought, sometimes justice is a ripple, not a wave. For her, the victory was quiet, measured in awareness, not applause. James Patel's documentary reached 10 million views in a week. He didn't celebrate. He archived the files, then started researching a new story. During an interview, a reporter asked, "Why do you keep doing this?" He smiled faintly. Because silence only wins if we stop listening. For him, Emma's case wasn't the end of an investigation. It was the beginning of a calling. In London, Sarah Clark began volunteering with a foundation that helped families of missing travelers. She never introduced herself as Emma's mother. She simply said, "Someone once helped me when I couldn't breathe." Her quiet strength became the heartbeat of the campaign. When she spoke at schools, she carried Emma's photo, not as a warning, but as a light. A year later, the Dubai marina looked unchanged. Lights glittering over water, music drifting from rooftop bars. Yet somewhere in those reflections, the city held a memory of what had been uncovered. Farah sometimes drove by the old penthouse, its windows dark now. She would pause, whisper a prayer, and move on. The city had learned that beauty, without truth, is just disguise. Every story leaves an echo. For Emma Clark, it was a movement, a law, and the unshakable love of those who refused to stop searching. The final image of her, smiling into morning light, became a symbol of both warning and hope. As her mother once said on camera, she dreamed of being seen. Now, through truth, she always will be. The frame fades to white, then to her smile, one last time.